Christmas as Christians? How did Christmas become a holiday in the Christian faith, okay, or belief system? Okay, basically, what is Christmas, and where does it originate from? Where does it come from? What is the origins of Christmas? Today we're going to speak about that, right? Because of the spirit of curiosity and learning, right? Most Christians don't understand what is Christmas, where does it come from, and why was it actually introduced? Okay, surprisingly, the birth of Christ is not recorded exactly when he was born, right? The 25th was chosen by the Roman Empire, right, regards to the unification of the people that were pagan at that time and the people that were believing in Yeshua's teachings in the first century. Now, remember that religion, or actually Christianity, was actually recognized as a religion in the 4th century. Prior to that, there were huge pagan worshipping and practicing spiritual practices at that time. Okay, so the celebration of Christmas has evolved dramatically over the centuries and time, blending ancient spiritual traditions, that's Roman traditions, and early Christian theology, and later cultural, commercial influences, right? Understanding its origins helps to separate what Christmas was, what it is now, and how it has been evolving in our uh, collective experience on this earth, right? So let's go back to the basis. Now, we all know that when Yeshua was here on this earth teaching people about love and kindness and teaching about their own power, right? That they should actually embrace. People were generally practicing pagan worshippers, okay? Worshipping, sorry, or pagan gods, right? They were worshipping pagan gods, all right? So let's go back to the basis here, right? We will go with the beginning. In short, there's no historical evidence to suggest that Yeshua was born on the 25th of December, right? Okay. So the date was chosen hundreds of years later after the death of Yeshua, right? And the early Christian church actually chose that date for a specific reason, not based on scripture, but symbolism and a central cultural strategy, right, that unfolded. The Bible never mentions the date. If you go to all the version of the Bible, there's no date about Jesus' birth, okay? In the Gospels, there's no exact date for Yeshua's birth. As I said, Yeshua, right, aka Jesus, known as Jesus. Clues point on different times of the year. Okay, remember that Yeshua lived in the northern hemisphere. In December, they're experiencing winter. Right? However, in the Bible, it speaks about shepherds were living in the fields. That's in Luke 2:8. In Judea, shepherds typically only stayed outside at night in spring or summer seasons, not in winter. A census required travel would not normally be done in the cold, rainy weather during winter, right? That means that the spring and the early summer or the early autumn were more likely the time of Yeshua's birth, right? So the early Christians never celebrated Jesus' birth. It wasn't part of the celebrations. For the first 200 to 300 years, the focus was on his teachings, right? His teachings and the death and resurrection. That's what the focus was on, basically, for the first 200 to 300 years of the teachings of Yeshua, or aka Jesus. Right? Focusing on the early church focused on resurrection, on inner transformation, and the kingdom consciousness. Right? So, birth celebrations were not part of the early Christianity. They were not part of early Christianity, right? The exact date simply wasn't a priority. His date of birth was not a priority in the early church traditions, right? So why did the church choose December the 25th? Why did the church choose December the 25th as Jesus's birth date? By the 4th century, Jesus' teachings, right, had really went across the whole Roman Empire at the time, right? Remember, the Romans were then controlling the world at that time, or that area of the world. But Romans already had a major festivals, on the 25th. From the 21st, right on to the 25th, the Romans had their own major festivals connected to their own spiritual or religious worshipping, okay, and belief systems. We have the Winter Solstice, right? They celebrated something called the Solus Interveticus, okay, which was a Roman uh, celebration of the sun god, right? Now, the birth of the unconquering sun, as they call it, was celebrated on the 25th of December. It was a pagan celebration. Christians reframed it, right, saying that is the day of Jesus Christ's birth, the Son of God. So there's a relation there. Okay, the birth of the unconquered Son. Celebrating when the sun begins and returns on the darkest hour or the darkest day. It's quite interesting, right? When you do the research and you practice Christianity and you were taught about certain things, there's certain things that don't really fit these gaps. It's because everything was created. The whole idea of Jesus' birthday being on the 25th is not a true historical event, right? Because there's no date of Jesus's birth, right? They just kind of took the Roman celebrations of festivals at the time from the 21st to 25th of December, and they coined it. There was one specifically around the celebration of the sun god, right, on the 25th. So they just connected the dots and they made that, okay? The Christians then adapted it to be Jesus' birthday. However, historically, there's no date of Jesus's birth, which is quite interesting, right? So people that don't know the history of their own belief systems is kind of confusing, right? We need to take this as just information. We're not talking against Christianity. We're getting information regards to how did certain key celebrations really begin, or they really where they're coming from, or they really were they practiced by the early so-called Christian church. Because remember, by the time when Yeshua was on earth in the 1st century, going around in Judea and other areas teaching about the love of God and that there is this God that loves us all, that we all are the fragmentations of God, but not in the words I'm saying, right? Because I'm using new words, okay? However, the teaching of Jesus is all about that. It's about loving ourselves and loving each other, love and peace and wellness as the key teachings, and the fact that you also can do more than what he did in when he was alive, right? So let's continue with this breakdown of where did it really begin. Now remember, the sun god celebration and Roman celebration has similarities to how we actually celebrate Christmas at this time, okay? Because there's feasting, celebrations, giving of gifts as well, and decorations. Not as colorful and so explicit as today's decorations, but they have decorations in their own celebration. It was a celebration of joy and celebration. It's about festivities, having a good time, celebrating the rise of the sun, basically. That was the pagan celebration of festival that was actually being played out at that time. The atmosphere strongly resembled what we will call Christmas traditions, right? The strategy around this whole concept was to convert people more easily, right, to the church. Often these dates that aligned with existing celebrations, because the Roman Empire had an issue. The Roman people were not believers of Christ, right? They had this political movement where they had to, I would say, get people together under one rule and the festivals and celebrations and belief systems. Now remember that the Romans were pagans. They believed in the sun god, Mithras, and all those things, right? They believed in other things other than what Yeshua had taught in the first century. But because it was a very popular philosophy now, people were very interested in Jesus' teachings, including the Romans at that time. So they decided, well, to get the people together and be able to control them and manage them collectively, we'll just embrace this Christian or these teachings of Yeshua, and they call it Christianity. Because when Yeshua was alive in the first century, he didn't call it wasn't a movement, it was more like teachings, and it wasn't a church, it wasn't a religion. He was just helping people, getting them to be awakening people with information and knowledge so they can know who they are, that they're not just stuck here, they're not just sinners, they're not in a place of out of with no control, that they are figmentations of the divine source. Right now, him being coined the Son of God, right? So Jesus didn't say he was the Son of God. You understand? Jesus was trying to help people to understand who they are. He didn't ask to be followed. Now, that was later on, in the 4th century, long after his death, then Christianity was created with that influence of him being a god, right? Him being more than just human. Even his date of birth and where even his birth was also something miraculous, because apparently his mother was a virgin. You know how it goes in the Christian Bible, right? Now, most people are celebrating something they don't understand. They don't know where it's coming from. That's the reason why I'm talking about this today, right? We are in December and people are working towards the 25th of December to celebrate Christmas. But I don't know where it comes from. They don't know the history of it. And why are we even celebrating that this time? Okay, now remember that my channel is all about spirituality, awareness, and asking questions about what you're practicing. Is it relevant now? What does it mean? How I can honor them, celebrate it in my own way that I can understand, basically, right? So that's why I'm talking about this topic. Not to talk against Christmas, but to give insights and awareness. We need to understand what we're celebrating every year. Year in and year out, we're celebrating Christmas. What is it? Where does it come from? You understand? Yeah, what is the origins of Christmas? Where it's coming from? Right? So the strategy at that time in the 4th century, the Roman Empire wanted to uh, uh, being able to control people, yes, but also to remove people from practicing many different things or philosophies to one philosophy, to one belief system. So they just changed the concept of the sun god, and then they just replaced it with Jesus Christ being born on the 25th of December, right? Basically, and the Christian church agreed on it. The Christian followers, not all of them that followed Yeshua's teachings, actually follow through the new way of actually seeing Jesus' teachings. Now, the strategy I said was to convert people more easily. The church often chosen dates like the 25th of December that align with existing celebrations, which were Roman celebrations. All right. So instead of celebrating the birth of the sun or soul, the Roman god, celebrating the birth of the son, Jesus, which is the Son of God, apparently, right? That's what the Christian church coined him as. This helped people transition from pagan rituals to Christian ones. You understand? Because all of a sudden the pagan rituals were now demonic. Now they introduced this new thing of Christianity. So now the people had to now let go of their pagan rituals, right? And then follow the Christian rituals like Christmas, Easter, you know, the rest, right? All the key celebrations of Christianity. So, as I said, in history, there's no date written down where Jesus was born or Yeshua was born. It is definitely not the 25th of December, because everything about what I say about what happened that day doesn't correlate to what really happened at that time in the northern hemisphere. Because remember that Yeshua was born in the northern hemisphere. At this time in December, it's winter. So why would the shepherds be outside minding their flock in winter? And why would be people traveling in census is done in winter? Because remember that life was not the way it is now. Life was not the way it is now. I mean, we didn't have transportation the way we have now, where we don't have restrictions. You can travel during winter freely across the globe, right? Because we have airplanes, we have trains that move fast. Then they were using like donkeys at that time in that area of the world, right, to move, and also moving by foot as well. So there's no way that those three wise men will be traveling across the land by foot in winter. And I mean, the sun coming out and stuff like that, and all that they say in the Christian Bible, it doesn't correlate. So it's good to understand what you believe in, what you're practicing. It's good to understand where does Christmas come from? Where does it originate from? So December 25th becoming a symbolic, not historical celebration, right? The date symbolized light returning to the world because of the soul meaning the soul was the sun god, celebration of the sun, the new sun. That was celebration of 25th. Okay, so it was return of the light to the world, hope of the darkness, the new beginning as well, the birth of spiritual consciousness, being more aware. These themes match Jesus's message perfectly. You see, they just kind of took Jesus' message and they took their theme of their Roman celebrations and they merged them together. Hi, Matthias. Thank you for joining my live. Hi, Zoe. Thank you for joining my live. Hi, guys. Today we're speaking about the origins of Christmas, where it's coming from, right? From the pagan beginnings and how they took the pagan belief and they took the Christians and Yeshua's teachings at that time. Remember when Yeshua was crucified in the first century, right? There was no Christian religion. It was all about this teacher, this rabbi, this guy that went around teaching people. There was no church. There was no political institution called Christianity or the Roman Catholic Church. That never existed at that time. That only came about in the 4th century. Now remember that things change in time. The message may also be changing in time from the time Yeshua was teaching the people in Galilee and everywhere else, teaching them about the love of God, to love each other and respect each other and see each other as holy and divine, right? Now, that was the whole of 1st century, so things can change when the Roman Empire decided to now embrace Christianity as a religion, a formal religion, you understand, in the 4th century. So now we're breaking down these steps, what really happened. You get what I'm trying to say, right? Now they took Soul, which was the sun god celebration of 25th of December. It was a Roman celebration, a festival, a Roman festival. And they just took the birth of Christ and they said, okay, Jesus was born on this day because the celebration, the festival celebration was on the 25th of December. So I repeat, there's no date or historical date for Jesus' birth. You can go do your own research to see, just to understand what I'm trying to say here, right? The 25th was just a chosen, like a day, okay, this day works for us, let's go with it. Because we want to unite the pagans and the so-called followers of Yeshua, of Jesus Christ, and then they gave his name Jesus Christ. Now, remember his real name was Yeshua or something in that line. So we all like collectively agree it's Yeshua. It was not Jesus. Jesus was given or coined by the Roman Catholic Church. They just took a story and that story needed to have a character name, and the key character of the New Testament is Jesus. So that's the name they gave. You understand, at the time. And then we stuck with it and we all accepted it as collective agreement, right? So the spiritual meaning behind the date of the 25th of December. Even if Jesus wasn't born on that day, the symbolism remains powerful. The rebirth, the light overcoming the darkness, inner awakening, the return of divine consciousness. Remember that the Old Testament is all about the struggles, right? The collective struggles of human beings through the 40 years in the deserts, discovering who they are, discovering the promised land, destroying people that were occupying at that time, occupying that land, taking over in the name of God, dear God, Yahweh, who gave them the power to kill and plunder and all those things. You understand? Yeah. Remember, if you go back and you read the New Testament, it's like a new book altogether. It doesn't really correlate because we in the New Testament there's introduction to this character called Jesus, who wants peace and love, and he doesn't want to hurt and plunder and steal, whatever. He just wants peace and understand. He wants people to love themselves and love their brothers and not to criticize and kill. Now, which is totally different to the Old Testament, right? The Old Testament is quite an interesting book to read, right? But remember, everything should not be taken literally. There's a lot of symbolism in it as well. Right now, spiritual meaning and the date, I said it was about rebirth, light overcoming darkness, right? The darkness of the Old Testament, because that was like the dark times, you understand? Inner awakening as well, understanding who you are, the return of divine consciousness. Many traditional or spiritual traditions honor the solace as a time of renewal, enlightenment, and new beginnings. Now winter is known as the solace, right? In the northern hemisphere, right? So many spiritual traditions honor the solace of a time of renewal, enlightenment, and new beginnings, which is quite interesting. Okay, let's continue. Now, in summary, we can say that basically Yeshua, who is Yeshua according to Jesus? Okay, Yeshua versus Jesus. Let's speak more about that. Jesus, who is Jesus according to the Bible? Okay, number one, Yeshua is a historical mystic, Jewish mystic. Yeshua is a historical Jewish mystic, right? Yeshua, according to history, right? Now, Jesus being the character, the theological figure shaped by the Roman Empire and later Christianity. So it was actually created by the Roman Empire, and Christianity was molded the concepts of Jesus as being the theological figure. The two versions evolve very differently, right? Let's break it down. Yeshua, in the history, right? What do they say about Yeshua? Yeshua's history. Many historians agree that Yeshua's real name is Arabic name was a Jewish spiritual teacher. Number one, he focused on inner transformation. Number two, teaching love, passion, and forgiveness. Number three, so he was teaching passion, compassion, forgiveness, and love at that time, emphasizing personal development and personal empowerment. Right? It speaks different to what religion is all about, because religion doesn't speak about personal development at all, right? Speaking about the kingdom of God within you, that's Luke 17:21, right? So Yeshua, according to the historical information they have, was a Jewish spiritual teacher, focused on inner transformation, teaching love, compassion, and forgiveness, right? Emphasizing personal empowerment, speaking about the kingdom of God being within you. That's in Luke 17, verse 21. Challenging the oppressive religious system. So this guy was actually challenging the oppressive religious system of his time in the first century. Operating more like a mystic, a healer, and a wisdom teacher. Right? That's what he was. He was a mystic. Now, Yeshua did not teach people to worship him. He taught people to awaken to who they are, right? Now, he never said, create a religion around me, right? There's no history saying that Jesus or Yeshua, told the people to create a religion around him. There's no history that says he said, build a church in my name. And he did not say, I am the only son of God. You see my point. This is where the story comes in. What did he teach was God is within you. God is love. God is forgiveness. God is peace. You can do what I can do, right? When you focus yourself in love and begin to love yourself totally and understand who you are in the eyes of God, you're able to do what I can do. You're able to heal others and do all the miracles, turn water into wine, right? Love is the core of spiritual evolution. Authority is found within you, not outside of you. Seeking validation within, not outside. That is why many spiritualists say that Yeshua taught self-empowerment and inner divinity. That's what Yeshua taught. Now, let's look at the character Jesus of the Bible. In the later Roman interpretation, after Yeshua died, right? Yeshua, in the first century, right after he died in the first century, his teachings spread along different groups, including the Essenes, because there is talks that his family were actually Essenes, right? And he followed the Essene philosophy and doctrine, okay? The Nazarites also followed as well. The Jewish followers and the Greeks, converts, Gnostics, mystics, etc. Right? All these are what the later Roman interpretation of what Jesus, his teachings, or who actually were influenced by his teachings. After about 300 years, there were many versions of Jesus. Many versions I can imagine, because everybody wants to claim, okay, I understand this Jesus. What was his teachings? You understand? Long after his passing, or long after he was murdered on the cross, basically, right? The Rome Empire stepped in to take control. When Rome decided to create Christianity as a religion in the 4th century, as I said, right? They chose which writings would become official. They decided on what's going to be Christianity. They decided what will be the focus of Christianity. It wasn't done by Yeshua's followers, it was done by the political system. The Roman Empire decided what they're going to make Christianity look like and feel like and be like, you understand? So they chose the writings that would become official. They emphasized Jesus as divine, not human. You understand? So Yeshua lost his humanness and became a divine God, according to the Roman Empire. Right? They reframed him as the only Son of God. They have to make him like a God, the only Son of God. You need to understand that the Romans always practiced pagan worship, right? And they deified the sun. They deified everything else, right? So they decided to deify Yeshua and make him a god. They suppressed his teachings about inner divinity and self-empowerment. They suppressed that, because how can you tell the people that you're controlling or wanting to control that they have self-power? You can't tell people that you have power when I want to control you. That means that I can't control you because you really have self-power. You understand? That's the reason why they took away the teachings of inner divinity and self-empowerment. They turned the movement into a religion. Remember that Yeshua was the leader of a movement in the first century. He wasn't a leader of a religion or a leader of a church. He was a leader of a movement. He was trying to teach people the right way to love themselves and honor themselves and love each other as well, and honor God, because they are part of God. He wasn't telling them that you are a sinner, that you need to listen to these 10 commandments or you must worship me. He didn't do that. However, the Roman Empire twisted it in the 4th century to suit themselves, right? Giving birth to the Christianity that we have now, basically, right? So they chose the writings or his teachings to make official, and they took away the part of inner divinity and self-empowerment. They turned the movement into a religion called Christianity. The concept Jesus right? Most people know today is shaped by church councils, Roman politicians, sorry, or Roman politics. It's shaped on efforts to unify the empire of Rome. It's about unifying the empire of Rome, not unifying the love of God or making people to understand that they are all God. No, it was about unifying the empire of Rome. The doctrines written long after Yeshua lived and passed and left this reality, right? So they just hijacked it basically. They saw an opportunity to have more control and they used Yeshua's teachings to get more control, right? And call it Christianity. And then they made Yeshua a God that deified him, right? That kind of thing. So that is why we have the concept of Jesus that we have now in Christianity. It was created by the Roman Empire. And this is neither right or wrong. This is history, guys. It is history. It's not about arguing. It's about history. It's about history. The facts that are out there that we should know where it all comes from. Where does Christmas come from? Where does Christianity come from? Right? The version focuses on worship and obedience, because the Roman Empire needed the people that they're controlling in the empire to be obedient. If you're not obedient, you're going to go to hell. If you're not obedient, you're going to be not accepted by God. You understand? So it's about worship, obedience, sin, and salvation. They had a sprinkle of sin there because Jesus never told any person that you were a sinful being. That was twisted, basically, right? So the church then developed a hierarchy and authority. Now, we know that the Roman Empire is a huge authority even till today. You understand, in the Vatican. Their history is dark, but very interesting at the same time. It's coming from hijacking a concept of a Jewish teacher called Yeshua, right? So it's all about that, guys. So yeah, let's continue. The very difference between Yeshua's teachings: inner power, number one; equality, number two. Right? He taught equality. He taught about inner power, direct connection to God. You don't need an in-between person to convey your message to God. You can go directly to God. Direct connection to God. Consciousness of love. Yeshua taught about love, not about control, not about abiding 10 commandments. That was added. That was added. You understand? Because remember that scribes is themselves, scribes that also create different versions of the Bible, right? So after the Roman Empire originally initiated the concepts or made Christianity a legal religion, other people of importance or power started taking control and also started molding Christianity to their own likeness, basically. You understand, if you look at it that way. So why the difference matters? Why does it matter? Religion focus on worship. Yeshua focus on awakening. Religion says God is above you. Yeshua taught us God is within you. You are God. You are God, and God's within you. Religion teaches about dependency, right? Depend on the Roman Empire and depend on God of the Bible, Yahweh, according to the Roman Empire, right? Religion teaches about dependency, to depend on somebody else outside of you, something else outside of you, and deny your divinity because you were told that you are a sinner, you're not God. Right, you were a sinner, you were a mere sin, and you were born a sinner, because that's part of the original sin teachings as well, right? This is the core of the modern spiritual perspective. A balance between you can use in content, right? Number one. Now, we need to understand the history of what we're actually practicing. Majority of the people in this world are Christians, right? If not over 50% of the people in the world are Christians in the modern world, right? And we also have the Islamic teachings, which is a branch of the Jewish teachings. And remember that these are all cousins. Christianity comes from Jewish teachings, and so does Islam. So all the practices that they practice in Islam were linked to the Jewish teachings. So what they did, they accepted some of the teachings in Christianity and they denounced the others. Like, for example, in Islam, Jesus is just a prophet. He's not a son of God. But in Christianity, he's a son of God. They mention Jesus in the Quran. He's recognized as a prophet, but a very powerful prophet of God. You understand? Just like how Muhammad is a prophet of God, Jesus is also according to the Quran teachings, because it's all coming from the Jewish teachings. Remember that Yeshua was a Jewish person, right? He followed the Jewish faith, right? But he was somebody who was leading a movement to free people from the dogma of the Jewish teachings, basically, right? He was way ahead of his time. So then when he was crucified by the Roman Empire with the help of the so-called Jewish people that were against his teachings, because they were against his uprising, because he was actually leading a movement freeing people from the Jewish dogma, to understand that they are powerful beings. You understand? That's where the problem came in. That is hence the crucifixion of Yeshua. You know, crucified at that time, any person that went against the state wasn't put in prison. If you were in a trial and you were deemed to be guilty, you were killed and crucified. That was how it was done those days. Unlike how it will be done today. You understand? So yeah. That was just what they did to people that went against the status quo, the political status quo, because now he was threatening the Roman Empire, and was also threatening the Jewish leadership's traditional spiritual leadership's position in the Jewish communities. He was a threat. He was a threat to two different poles, threat to the Romans and threat to his own people that were believing in the dogma of his spiritual belief, Judaism. Right? You understand? That's a big reason why he was crucified. Right, basically is that. So you can actually say it however you want to say it, but that's just the core of the history of the death of Christ and the birth of Christ. There is no date called the 25th. The 25th was actually then created as a Jesus' birthday because of the Roman Empire's influence and also the Christian church at that time, that who were now buying into, because remember that Yeshua's teachings were not seen as a religion. It was just like a movement. So when the Roman Empire decided to make Christianity their official religion and get rid of all their pagan practicing and their pagan god worshipping like Mithra and all those things, right? And so, right? So then they made it official that Christianity is now the official religion or belief or philosophy that the people are going to follow. So they thought it was like a good thing because it was a win for them, the people that believed in Yeshua's teachings. You understand? They never questioned it, basically. They didn't question the fact that it's actually a political movement. It's done for the one reason: the Roman Empire wanted control, to control people, right? To control both Roman people. So they had to let the Roman people buy into this new religion by taking their festivals and just celebrating the same festivals, but using Jesus as the face. Like, for example, the sun, the celebration or the festival of the sun, which is on the 25th of December. It was celebrated long before it became a Christmas Day celebration, with Jesus being the key character of the celebration, the birth of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was not born on the 25th. Yeshua was not born on the 25th. Jesus Christ, according to the Roman Empire, they gave him a date of birth, which is 25th. You understand that character? You understand? But for me, everything is energy, so that they carry two different energies. Yeshua, the teacher of the Jewish people in the first century, has a different energy to the Jesus character of the Bible, the Christian Bible, because the objectives were different. As I said, I read it earlier on. Yeshua is about equality, about love, about unity, about the reconnect to God, about consciousness and love. It's about awareness. Yeah, Yeshua's teachings is about awakening, and the Jesus teachings about savior figure created through theology. He was the savior according to the Christian teaching, the Christian religion. That is why people feel they have different personalities. As I said, the energies are different. So why is it different matters? As yet, because of the fact we need to understand that number one, religion focuses on worship, right? And then Yeshua was teaching about awakening to who you are, right? And Yeshua was teaching about awakening who you are, and religion teaches you about dependency, depending on something outside of you. This God in the sky called Yahweh or whatever, this punishing God that will punish you and send you to hell straight away if you do anything wrong, if you ever dare to question his power. Right, that's where it comes from. So a balance between the two. Right, now let's talk about the historical in history. Yeshua was a spiritual teacher who guided people towards inner empowerment and awakening, unconditional love for yourself and others. Later, the Roman Empire's Jesus Christ's version became a theological figure shaped by religious and political purposes. Right? So the concept of Jesus was shaped from a political or religious purposes of control. These two portrayals feel different because of the personalities, the energies that they carry, because one focuses on awakening while the other focuses on worship and giving your power away too, basically, you understand? So I remember the Empire of Rome had a certain objective to control the people, to take them away from their own self-empowerment. You need to understand that. Pagan stuff is different to religion, right? Pagan's about you understanding the cycles of life, understanding your own cycles because you are a part of nature. You are part of life, understanding that you are a human being, yes, but you are connected to everything else. That's what paganism also, part of paganism teaches you. Because in Wicca, you are understanding the cycles, the moon cycles, you're understanding the seasons, you're celebrating different like type of milestones and celebrations like the solstice celebrations, all those different festivals. You understand that you're part of the universe and you're taught to honor the earth and not to abuse it. Right? This is not about commercialization now. Religion has become very commercialized, as you can see how Christmas has actually evolved into something about spending. Christmas is about spending. It's not about love and unity. It's not about uniting people and kindness and helping each other. It's now more about commercialization, the biggest presents, who has the biggest tree, the best lights. All these things cost cash and money, right? So that's what it's all about now. It's not about Yeshua's teachings, basically. Christmas is not about Yeshua's teachings. It's about what the Roman Empire actually stood for, control and power. So we need to understand that. So, does it make sense celebrating something year in and year out? You don't even understand what it is. You don't understand where it's coming from. You just listen to what your parents told you because we actually learn from our parents. Whatever was practiced as in our childhood, whatever our parents taught us as our social culture or practices, we carry it over to the next generation by teaching our children the same things. Nobody's asking, wait, let's ask a question. Where does this thing come from? Is it valid now? How should I be celebrating Christmas now? Right, you understand? Since I know what it's all about, let me do more research on it, where it's coming from, the origins of Christmas. As we're now in December, and in a few days or so, we're going to be celebrating Christmas, and we don't know what it's all about. Where does it come from? Jesus or Yeshua was not born on the 25th of December. Right, that's just something that was coined by the Roman Empire and then later the Roman Catholic Church. It was coined as the birth of Christ, but it's not the birth of Christ. There is no historical account of his birth. As I said at the beginning, the early followers of Yeshua, people that followed his teachings and the lifestyle and everything in his doctrine, were not focusing on his birthday. They were focusing on his teachings, basically, not on when he was born. And then after his murder, I call it a murder, when they crucified him, they started focusing on that. And also, and they coined it that he gave his life for sinners, basically. That's what the Christian Bible says. But not thinking that every single person at the time that did something against the state was crucified, right? If you're found guilty, you were crucified. It was just what was done at the time. There was nothing special specifically for Jesus Christ, for Jesus, or according to the Bible, or to Yeshua, because that's the same character. But now they kind of mold him differently, and they gave him the name called Jesus, and they mold him differently according to the Roman pagan worshipping concepts of the sun, worshipping the sun, the soul worship of the 25th of December. You understand? Yeah. So it's good to know where your practices, your belief systems come from, right? What you practice. It's good to understand where it comes from. Like, I'm a very inquisitive person, right? I was a Christian, a practicing Christian before. I walked away from the church because I don't understand certain things. I don't agree with certain things that they teach. I don't agree in the fact that I'm a sinner. I don't believe that I should be living my life according to this character dear God in the Bible. I don't believe it anymore because I started understanding who I am. You understand? Asking questions and finding my own answers to those questions, and also having a relationship with divine creator, having a relationship with my higher self, understanding that I'm not a sinner. I didn't come here to suffer and struggle and call myself a sinner, because words are everything, right? Words are everything. Words carry power. Now, the more you say something, the more you actually sealing yourself into that energy. You are saying that, yes, I'm not worth much. I'm just a mere sinner. No. You are powerful. You are divinely created in the image of God, right? So that's where the difference comes from. Now, remember, when people move away from the church, don't move away from God. They still believe in God, but they don't believe in God in the same way as what's taught in the religion concept of Christianity. I still believe that is a God is like greater, but I know that this God loves me without any conditions. He's not giving me condition, or it or she, whatever, is not giving me conditions. That being loves me unconditionally. I choose to be a good person. I choose to, not because the fact I'm scared of going to hell or I'm scared of getting punished. I choose to be a good person to myself and to others. I choose to be positive and uplifting for myself. Not because I'm afraid of hell or I'm afraid of being condemned. No. See my point, where the separation is, when you understand who you are, that it's a choice. It's a choice to love people. It's a choice to love yourself as well. It's a choice to understand what you're practicing. Everything is a choice. It's a choice to take your empowerment back. And Yeshua taught about self-empowerment. You taught about self-empowerment, to empower yourself to understand what's taught to you, right? And make your own decisions. And don't make them out of fear of going to hell, or a fear of being condemned by God. God's love can never leave you, because you are part of God. God's love can never leave you. You decide to be a good person. And even if you decide not to be a good person as well, you make that decision. You're not going to be condemned, right? Because in that case, we wouldn't have the love of God that shines bright over every single person. As I always say, the sun shines over every single person. May you be a so-called sinner, may you be a bad person or a good person. There's always space for you to come back to light and come back to love, basically. That's how it is. Because remember that the tarot speaks about, even the the Kabbalah talks about evolution of human beings from being lost away from God and finding yourself closer and closer to divinity. That's how you get closer to God. You change yourself. You become a better person. You start loving yourself and accepting yourself and understanding who you are. And you start learning to have empathy and grace for other people, forgiving other people and all those things. Now you're going higher and closer to God. It's an evolution. It's a growth aspect. You understand? You're not Yes, I'm here to be condemned, here to live and experience life and also evolve and get closer to divine God, to divine love, because you are love. It's all about you making those decisions that add value to your life. It's not about condemning yourself. That's why I don't really agree with everything that they teach in the Christian Bible. Right? I don't believe what they teach in Christian church as well, because what's in the Bible is not really what's taught in the churches. What's taught in the churches is the own pastor or that leader's perception of what's in the Bible. Because the people don't go home and read the Bible. They don't go do their own research and learning about what the pastor was actually talking about that Sunday. Nobody wants to go back home and understand it for your own self, and don't be led by somebody else who's also trying to find his way too as well. Because remember that that pastor or that Christian leader or whatever is not a perfect person. There's no perfect person here. Right. So anyway, let me, if you have not as yet and you find my topics quite interesting, because I know that the guys that join now in my life are quite familiar with my channel. If it's your first time coming here, right, welcome. I'm Sisin, life coach and motivational speaker and also spiritual teacher as well, right? I also do tarot and I do spiritual teachings, right? My channel is all about everything spiritual, including occult, including esoteric stuff. Everything got to do with you being human, self-development, and also the spiritual side of us, right? My channel talks about that. I speak about different topics and make different videos regards to our own evolution. You as human beings, you understand that everything is a choice here. You're not forced to do anything. So if you have not followed me, Samson, go ahead and follow me, right? And others as well. Matthias, I'm not sure if you are following me and if you're subscribe to my channel, right? So when I'm saying following, I say subscribe, I mean subscribe, right? So you can subscribe to my channel, right? And then you're able to also see the videos that I actually make, and whenever I have my live, you'll be given notification. I normally have my lives during weekends, but now that I'm on my leave, I'm on holiday, I'll do more live speaking about different topics around this time of the year and spirituality. You understand? So that's why I chose this topic about Christmas. What is Christmas to you? Now that we spoke about the history, where it's coming from, what does Christmas mean to you? Is it because it's now more than just a religious holiday or celebration? It's now a social collective type of celebration, because people are not even Christian understand Christmas and accept it, right? So what they're practicing in their homes is exchanging gifts. It's about unity and love, and understanding who you are, right? So it actually evolved past just being a Christian holiday, because I know that people are not Christian also recognize and acknowledge Christmas Day. And it's also turned into a very commercialized holiday as well, right? So people spend time preparing for Christmas, buying those presents, decorating their homes and all those things, buying goodies, food, and everything for that one day. You understand? So my last live I made last week was about spending. You know what I mean? Overspending for Christmas. Is it something that we should be doing? Since we understand it's not about buying, it's about celebrating life. It's about celebrating here in the southern hemisphere. We have summer now. We can be celebrating the fact that we're in the summer solstice now. We are now experiencing now the awakening of the earth. The flowers are blooming. There's wonderful trees and there's wonderful fruits that are out there. We're celebrating life itself, right? For me, Christmas is about celebrating life, not necessarily celebrating the birth of Christ, because that birth of Christ is not even the true thing. That date is not even the correct date. You understand? It's about the rebirth of the earth here in the southern hemisphere. You know what I mean? Now we're in summer because we had a long 6 months of winter. So now we're in summer and we're celebrating the holidays and the festive experience and stuff like that. So it's not so much a religious celebration for some people like myself, right? Because I'm not Christian anymore, right? I'm more spiritual. But I recognize and acknowledge where it's coming from, where Christmas is coming from, the history of it, the reason why it was even created in the first place. And I can understand where the the objective of the Roman Empire at the time, because they had this big job of embracing two philosophies and trying to also get the Roman people that were pagan worshippers to buy into this new concepts of Christmas Day being all about Jesus's birth and stuff like that. But they connected to the soul celebration, which was the birth of the sun god, basically. You know what I mean? Revival, renewal as well. I think that's where the two colorations met in that way. The agreement came there. You understand? So when you are spiritual, you're not thinking about good or bad or evil and good, whatever. You are thinking about the whole concept on a higher level. You're seeing things not from a place of being a mesh to a certain principle, but you're understanding everything, right? You're understanding where it's coming from, and you're saying to yourself, okay, since I know all this information, what is Christmas to me? You understand? What is Christianity to me? If I still want to be a Christian, if I still want to follow the Christian way of living like that, because everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. You understand that kind of thing. So a lot of people are still choosing to be Christian, but they're not buying into the dogma around Christianity. They're not buying into those little dogmatic teachings and practices. But I do understand that the love of God is true, that God is a real thing, that God is real to them, right? So they're still going with that as well. You get what I'm trying to say? So the reason why people walk away from religion is because they want more information, and they want to stop feeling guilty for asking questions. Because in the Christian church, they teach you must not ask questions. Don't ask questions. Just follow, live by faith. Now, remember that faith is not a Christian principle. Faith is a universal principle, because faith is found everywhere. It's found in Hinduism, it's found in Jainism, it's found in Taoism. Faith is a human principle. It's part of being human, because every morning we get up and we have faith in life. We get up and we get our stuff that we need to get done. We do what we need to get done because we have faith that if I jump in my car now, I'm going to get to the mall and I'll be safe, right? Because the faith and trust is a core principle of being humans. As it has nothing to do with only being Christian, right? So Christianity doesn't own faith. Faith is something that we are. We practice it every single day. Every morning you get up and you go to a place. You have faith that the place does exist. When you go coming from work and you're going home, we have faith you're going to get home safely on the roads, get home safely, and your children and your home is going to be safe. You understand? You have that faith, because faith is something that it has very little to do with religion, basically, because we are humans and human beings of faith. Every day we operate in belief, in other words. Faith is just belief. Every day we operate in belief. You understand? So, as I'm closing now, guys, right, please remember to be kind to yourself, to love each other, right, and have empathy for other people. You understand at this time? Because remember, this is celebration of light, especially now in the southern hemisphere, because now we're in the summer. It's about celebrating family unity, going to the beach, celebrating the summer season, eating beautiful summer fruits, enjoying the festive experience. You understand? And in winter in the northern hemisphere, they are doing it, celebrating in their own way. You understand? But the core principle of Christianity is coming from the Roman Empire, and unification of the pagan people and the many people that believed in Yeshua's teachings. You understand? It's about unity, unifying those two groups who create this the Roman Empire or Roman Catholic Church type of drama, which later Christianity then split into many other different denominations. You understand? All come from the same idea, like how the religion split, the Abrahamic religion split from the Jewish teachings, right? Remember that Christianity came from there, and so the Islamic religion came from there as well. So the same thing. It's like everything in this reality, in this game, comes from something, and it starts splitting itself because people start practicing different parts of the core teaching or the core belief of something. You understand? It's just the way we evolve as human beings. It's the way we evolved as human beings, guys. So as I said before, if you have not as yet, go and subscribe to my channel, right? Check out my videos and also share with your friends and your family, right? The videos that are uplifting and insightful. All right. I also share my journey, right? Like, for example, my plant-based journey. I share what I'm eating and stuff like that sometimes, you understand? Because, yeah, because everything is energy, and the food that you put in your mouth is also energy. So the food also affects you physically and also spiritually. Your food affects you physically, but also spiritually and also psychologically, because the food and nutrients also feed your brain as well. So everything needs to be done with intention. So my teachings as a coach is about intention. So we're gonna prepare food or choose food, choose with the intention, understand what you're eating. Don't just eat because other people are eating. Eat with the intention, right? And I love the plant-based way of eating because it's rich and it's so diverse. It's not limiting. People think that the plant-based diet is limiting, but it's not, right? But remember, everything is energy. What you put in your mouth, what you put into your eyes, things you're consuming with your mind or through your eyes, it's all energy, and it's gonna affect your aura, it's gonna affect your energy, it's gonna affect you. It's gonna affect your physicality and your psychology. That's why it's important at this time. In my previous live last week, I spoke about not overspending and not overeating at this time, because the concept of Christmas has lost its core meaning. That's why I even did the history, a deep dive into the history where it came from, because the concept of Christmas has lost its core meaning. Now it's about commercialization. So you choose what is Christmas to you, since now that you understand the history around Christmas and you want to do more research, go ahead and do it as well, because what I'm reading here and this information is out there and available to every single person. If you want to know more about the evolution of Christmas, where it came from and stuff like that. Okay, guys. So I have a great Saturday further, and yeah, today is Sunday. Sorry, it's Sunday. My bad. It's Sunday. Have a great Sunday further, and enjoy the festive period with your family and friends, and be kind to yourself and everybody else. Okay, and remember that this is a time of celebration. It's a time of being grateful for all the things that you have at this time, and also looking back to the year 2025, because we're closing this year very soon and be crossing over to 2026. We need to be grateful and understand that everything that happened through us, what we've experienced this year, is for our own growth and our own evolution, our own awareness. Even if it was a bad things or good things, because people had a hard time this year. This year was very emotionally difficult, challenging for most people. So whatever you went through this year, look at it in a point of learning. What I've learned about myself, that I'm a strong person, I can overcome a lot of things, that I need to be more intentional in my life. Remember that everything's about intention. Okay, so I have a great week further, and I will have another live probably in the week as well, because I said I'm going to do more lives during the festive break, right? So have a great week, guys, and be kind to yourselves and your family members as well, and your friends. Have a great day. Okay, ciao, ciao.